the things that I was looking at about 7 or 8 years ago was the growth of this term multi-hyphenate and how with people living longer, well, at least that was the case up until I think 2019, and COVID has
Mm.
probably affected that a bit. But and also people working or expected to work longer. There were more people across all ages that were sort of moving away from this sort of stable job, linear career trajectory, and into this sort of more multi-hyphenate way of working, which involves doing more than one thing. Often, I don't know, it could be sort of 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things. And it struck me that many creatives, particularly musicians, have so many kind of aspects or roles, if you want, to their lives. The songwriting, playing, producing, then there's sort of poetry, art, promotion, DJing, band management, tour management, running a label, all that sort of stuff. And that if you're going to hold up an example of what this sort of multi-hyphenate life looks like, then musicians would be it. It's the DIY, I think, really, that sort of blew up when when punk started, and has sort of filtered into a whole way of being, really, for future generations. I think we find it particularly among sort of younger generations, but also older generations as well, who want to do different things with their lives. And you can't really talk about multi-hyphen life without talking to my guest today. She's doing all of the above that I mentioned, and more and more and more, including her own band, The Jewel, which is really sort of inspired by punk rock, free of any cliches, rules, boundaries, and 100% free-spirited. So it's my real pleasure to welcome Tara Rez to the show. Tara,
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you. That I wasn't expecting that. I thought, wow, you're going straight into a question with that. And I was like, wow,
No, I like to
lovely
do
to be
my
here.
sort of little bit of baloney at the start, just to it's just like I find it sometimes it's like a little bit of a uh that sort of intro, just a bit of a sort of conduit of stuff that I'm sort of thinking about, and I like
Yeah.
to kind of try and relate it in some way to the to the guests that I've had that's sort of relevant to what's happening in the in the world.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
like it.
I mean, you do so much stuff, right?
I do so much stuff, and I think it all started because when I was younger, I always had two lists.
Mm,
One was a list of things I had to do, which was to kind of take care of myself. I was, in care, and then I was on my own, and so I had to pay my own rent, feed myself, clothe myself, which can be quite scary when you're
mm,
young and got no. Do you know what I mean? It's scary
yeah, yeah.
when you're a girl and you're on your own. So yeah, that was my aspiration. I had dreams. I was a writer. I sang. Acting was what I really wanted to do.
Was it
Um,
right?
but yeah, so every day I would do what I had to do. I'd have two lists: the had to do's and the love to do's. And I
Mm.
just, for my own self, I had to make sure I was ticking things off both lists. And I've been doing that so long. This has gone a bit. And I think COVID probably mashed it all up again. You know,
Mm.
I think I've always been quite futuristic anyway, hence I'm on Mars today. This is my woman cave we were talking about earlier. I've always
That's a fantastic view. I want to live somewhere like that, honestly.
well, you might have to
Amazing.
one day.
I might have to do, yeah. Everything be barren
If we're
dry.
lucky enough. Yeah. So yeah, so I forgot what I was saying, but I've always been hyperactive as well. I've
Mm,
always got a lot going on in my head, and I used to, at one point it was so bad I actually went on medication so that I could
mm,
just literally, focus on one subject for about 20 minutes, and it was quite a pleasure.
mm,
Just relaxing, doing one thing, don't think about anything else, just that one thing, and then move on. I took pills to help my mind to be like that, but then I got too addicted to the pills, so I had
mm.
to, especially with a drink. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so then I had to come off those and, and muddle through in my own way. And I
Is
just
that your
allow myself to do whatever I want. I just have to, you know.
Is that your kind of natural thing? Your mind's always like always busy. It's always it's kind of thinking.
Yeah, I think I have a naturally inquisitive mind.
Mm,
Um, and it wasn't until like my, when I just hit like early 30, well, 30, I had a, yeah, maybe after that, I didn't realize the way I was. I mean, maybe I've just got an ism and I never knew it. I think in our
mm,
time, they didn't go, you didn't get identified, oh, you've got ADHD or you've got this, that, you just,
mm.
we didn't get diagnosed, did we? We were
It was just
part
like
of,
you were. That's how
yeah.
you were. Yeah.
Oh, there's Jimmy over there. He's a bit funny,
Yeah.
sometimes, all of that.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
got a term for the type of funny.
Mm.
Um, so
It does it does make you think that actually. You're right with that. Because I sort of think about some of the things that I do. Like if I'm sort of sat watching TV or something like that, or if I'm, as I often do, sort of staring at a wall thinking or something like that, I'll look at some pictures and they'll be slightly out of line and it'll bug me. Not in
yeah,
a kind of massive way, not in a massive way,
no.
but I'll find my eye keep going back to it and things like that. You
Does it
know,
give you anxiety?
it it's not too bad, but I could easily
Yeah,
see how it would
it
do.
could become.
Yeah, and it's almost like I can leave it, but it would bug me. But so I might just go and move it, and then that's okay. That's calm then. It's weird, but I think I've not been aware of that until quite recently. Perhaps when there's just been so much more, in the media, in the news about some different conditions that people
Yeah,
have. But like you say, kind of back when you were a kid, that was kind of what you were almost.
yeah. You didn't have all these different terms of illnesses, did you? And maybe
Mm,
you didn't have all of the illnesses because we weren't eating,
mm,
some of the processed stuff that we eat these days. But definitely, I've my mind does. I find it hard to concentrate, and anyway, I just got a lot of dreams, and also, oh, I don't know, I just want to live. I want to do everything I want to do. I don't
mm,
like anything to stop me doing what I want
mm.
to do.
So
When I was a kid,
no,
I
go
started a school, and I'd only just come into the country, and I
on.
and I thought about it the other day. I made a little poster.
Mm,
Um, I was only 7, if that. I made a little poster and I put it on our basement railings in Brighton, Brunswick
mm.
Square, and I, you know, advertised that a new school was taking in new pupils.
Yeah.
And I put it on the thing, and my stepmom kept turning people away because there were people trying to say, "Oh, you started a new school. Yeah, I'm interested." And she was like, "Oh, no, 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 that's not really a school. It's just my kid. Stop doing it."
It's
So
like her imagination sort of coming up and just
yeah,
like sometimes
um,
almost like a dream as well.
I did
Dream,
that at the age of 7. Do you know what I mean? Try to start a
yeah,
school. That's mad.
it's brilliant. I mean, it's
Where did
kind of,
that come from?
I don't know. Have you thought about that? Where that sort of came from? Is
Um,
I'm really interested in doing that when you think of those things that you
yeah,
kind of remember from your childhood. Like, okay, why did I do that? What does that mean?
I don't know. I think my mum apparently had one of the highest IQs in the country.
Mm,
So I'm from Iran. I
mm,
only met her a few times, so the little bit of info I know about her is everything.
mm,
Um, and apparently, when I went to junior school, I had one of the highest IQs in the school.
mm,
Obviously, stuff happened, and then I probably had one of the lowest IQs. But yeah, I don't know where it comes from.
mm.
There is an inner you, isn't there, coming out,
Yeah.
basically. And we probably all have that. It's just it gets squashed by other stuff.
It does. It does really, doesn't it? I mean, it's this sort of whole thing of when kind of like sort of drawing that sort of picture of the school and stuff like that. those are almost like in a way, those sort of fun things that you do as a sort of kid, or that most kids you know do. At least you have that play part in your mind. It gets kicked out of you.
Yeah,
So when you get to a certain age, or you start, kind of getting into society. I mean, I think like schools definitely do that. Very sort of
definitely.
strict kind of like academic. And then there's the societal pressure of you know get your exams and blah 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 and all that
Yeah. The
sort of
other thing
stuff.
I used to do is like all my dolls, I didn't have many dolls, but when I did have them, I used to kind of shave their hair off and
Did you?
did all sorts of strange things. I was born to be a punk rocker.
So like when you sort of coming to the UK,
Yeah.
you what did you say, 7 when you?
I was 7 when I came into the UK. I used to live with my
Yeah.
grandparents. In
Mm,
Iran back then, when a couple divorced, the man would get the child
yeah.
and the woman would get sent away.
Mm,
So I was taken from my mum at 6 months.
right.
So yeah, I was brought up by my dad's parents, and my grandma became my mum,
Mm,
and she was lovely. Um, she had like 9 kids.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then one day they just said to my dad, look, we can't look after your kid anymore. You go either gonna have to come back in Tehran and
Mm,
bring back your kid, or you take her with you. And he decided to bring me here.
mm,
Uh, there was talk of like, war and stuff. So I
mm,
guess he just got me out just before.
yeah.
So then I came
Before all
here.
that.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then,
So like when you sort of come here, and what sort of people were you, or sort of kids were you hanging out with? What sort of kids were you sort of drawn to?
uh,
Because I remember, I remember, like it's weird. Like I'm like when I was a kid, and I still am, but I was like a really sort of shy kid. Like
yeah,
I never wanted to stand out. I just wanted to, just sort of be me, and I hated any sort of attention and things like that. And I think I probably sort of like gravitated with my friends. I mean, some friends you don't choose, because the road that we lived on, there were sort of kids from different sort of ages, and you just hang out
yeah,
with them. But I think the ones that I sort of chose were probably the similar sort of personality to me.
yeah.
You,
I had a very strange childhood. I didn't mix with a lot of other kids. I wasn't allowed to play with them,
mm,
and I wasn't allowed to go out.
all
So
right.
I had an unusual childhood from that point of view. And when I
Mm,
first came to the UK, I couldn't speak English either. So
right. Yeah. Yeah.
so all the kids were teaching me, swear words, and I was saying it really well. So they were great. The kids were lovely. I was probably a tomboy. I was
Yeah.
climbing the trees with the boys, and um yeah, more than anything else, I think I was probably always a tomboy.
Mm,
But yeah, the kids were nice. The teachers were lovely. I quickly learned English.
mm,
And I mean, I loved Brighton and that. Unfortunately, things went a bit funny. And ended up in care.
mm,
So then that's a whole other world
yeah.
of stuff then happened to then, just kind of spit me out onto the streets of London, literally.
Mm.
So, yeah, it's been and then I ended up in a squat with Guru Josh. Don't know
Oh,
if you remember him. He had a
I do.
hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
in- So, yeah, I remember him before he got famous. So, yeah, and I think because of the things that I went through as a kid, I didn't really study or anything. And
Mm,
so I was kind of like in care, but like I literally didn't eat for 6 days once. I
mm,
literally had coffee and sugar and no money. So I think when you've been that low, you have to look after yourself, and you do have to think, what do I want to do? What can I
mm,
do? How can I pay my rent without being, you know, harassed by this man or this
mm,
woman, or it changes you. So yeah, I've always had to take care of myself. And I've always been a loner because I was never allowed to have friends.
mm,
Very weird. And the friends I had, I couldn't really keep because my life wasn't stable. Like my friends used to shave their legs. You know, I wasn't allowed to shave my legs.
mm,
It's just terrible things like basic crap,
mm,
just BS really.
mm.
So I always felt a bit like an imposter. Do you know what I mean? I was always a little bit out. I didn't quite fit in. Um, I was from a war-torn country, and I
Yeah,
really felt it.
yeah.
My
What was you?
father became extremely, you know, when the war hit, it hit him hard as well. And, you know, it was all it, even if even if you're not right there in the country going through the war, dealing with, you know, the bombs and the murdering and everything, you know, if you're part of it, you're feeling it. Do you know what I
You're
mean?
still
So
feeling it. Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
ricochet of war.
yeah. Because it's part of who you are. That's,
Yeah,
you know, it's
my
kind of where you
my
were born, and
one of my aunties, her whole family were wiped out in like 5 minutes.
mm,
Yeah, you know, when they did the chemical bombing on the border of Iran and Iraq. You know,
yeah.
when you know stuff like that. And of course I've seen some bad things. So yeah, just it's good to be alive and to
Good to
live
be
in a
alive.
free society. You know, we can always complain, but it
Yeah.
can always be a hell of a lot worse.
Well, you have a very you know you know we all have our own sort of perspectives, but you have a very um clear perspective from that most people, a lot of people won't have, because you've seen things from, you know, some angles that a lot of people won't do. And like you say, you know, when it's, you know, about sort of complaining about things, there's a sometimes another sort of story to that.
Yeah, it's all relative really, isn't it?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
if you're not feeling anything, I remember actually I used to get really down. I mean, not everyone gets down, but I used to get really down to the point I couldn't, you know, control it. And then I went to India. I think it was back in 2008
Mm,
when I got my first team member in India.
yeah.
Anyway, I went there because I was working with some people there. Um, but yeah, I really saw poverty on another level.
Mm,
I went to a part Combator. It's where the
right.
cotton industry is.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes I went out to where all the people are, where there's stampedes because they want food and that.
Mm,
Anyway, I have never, and when I came back to England after being there, I've never been depressed like I used to get
mm,
after seeing that. And I just thought, God, if there's anyone out there that feels sorry for themselves living over
yeah.
here, they really need to go over there and see what
Absolutely.
billions of people are having to live like. And then you come back here and you're like, wow, I got everything.
Yeah, it's interesting because we like Saskia and me went to India beginning of this year, and we started off in Mumbai. I'd like sort of six days
Oh,
there,
yeah.
and we went to this bookshop that was sort of in the older parts, just behind where we were staying, and it was a lovely well, it was that was like the real, you know, some of the real sort of old sort of India, you know, very, you know, sort of shops, very, and
Yeah.
you know, and tradespeople sort of, you know, in their sort of small places and what have you. There was a sort of bookshop. It was a kind of radical bookshop, and it had one of the books in there was basically about this project that a charity was doing in the big Dharavi area of of Mumbai. And I don't like to use the word slum, but I can't think of another word right now. But
Yeah.
and it was basically people sort of going into this area and teaching women their photography. And you know, and it was amazing. Like, so
Oh,
this book had like some of their stories and quotes, and you know, the kind of the background, and it was incredible. And the you know, kind of quotes like, you know, they get to see our lives, we don't get to see theirs. And you know, am I this project has been so great because it you know, otherwise my life is about cleaning. You know, it's purely about cleaning. It's about, you know, kind of like making food all day every day, you know. And it was just, yeah, that's like a fucking tough life, you
yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's, yes, you're right, it's really eye-opening when you come from a, you know, sort of liberal place to, you know, to see that.
Yeah, it definitely, I am responsive to other humans. I can't help it.
Mm,
Um, you kind of feel a bit lame. "Oh, I went there, now I don't get." I mean, obviously, I really don't get down like I used to after
mm,
there. Whatever happened there really opened my eyes.
yeah,
Obviously, things are getting better in India now, isn't it? As they become a more wealthy, more powerful country.
yeah.
Um,
But it's I
yeah,
mean, it's
poverty
still
is everywhere.
got a lot of, still got a lot of, I think a lot of it, you know, which you see, you know, around the world, is the just the kind of the centuries of like almost like sort of social behavior that's ingrained, you know,
Yeah,
in the, you know, there's just, you know, kind of levels. We have it, you know, we have it here, definitely in the States. You know,
yeah.
it's all around, and it makes you realize how difficult it is to change that. 'Cause it's
Well,
so kind of ingrained. It's
it's
really,
it's funny you should mention it because just this morning I was looking at, I can't remember the guy's name, Maslow, hierarchy of
the
need.
hierarchy of needs. Yeah,
Yeah,
Maslow.
so
Yeah.
so the hierarchy of needs. Apparently, when he first started coming up with a theory, he went to see a tribe, a Native American tribe, or
Mm,
some kind of tribe to test it on. Um, and the flips, because the hierarchy of needs is the basics. You got to have
yeah.
food and shelter in order to feel mentally like a bit more secure. And then once you got that, then you can think about a job and money, and then after that you can think about blah blah blah. And then
Yeah.
right at the top is your spiritual needs and awareness.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes like that. If you got all of those, then you can all be peaceful and happy. But when he did his test with this tribe, he found it the opposite. And actually, the way this tribe lived their life was to be whole and complete within themselves was the foundation
Mm,
of the triangle. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It wasn't a
Yeah.
case, oh, I need all this material stuff to then be
Yeah.
spiritual. They were spiritual first. They knew who they were first. And they were encouraged to know who they were, to evolve to open their, part of their
Yeah.
brain and stuff. They were aware, and that was the foundation. And then the next level was the food and the shelter, and all of that. And that became community.
Yeah.
That's what you do with a community. With a
Totally.
community, you break bread, or and have food and create communities to live.
Yeah.
Um, and I just thought, wow,
Yeah.
that is a brilliant theory.
It is, isn't it? Because yeah, because you're right. Because that kind of Maslow was, you know, very coming, you know, very much from a sort of Western point of view,
Mm,
which is, you know, kind of rooted in, you know, essentially sort of rooted in capitalism, isn't it? You know, and
yeah. Yes.
whereas the, you know, kind of indigenous populations, it is more about community. I mean, you only have to look at, like in the West, how little food is part of a sort of community. It's much more an isolated
Yeah.
experience here, isn't it? That you go to sort of India or some, you know,
Meal for
indigenous
one.
communities. Yeah, meal for one. Yeah. Whereas, you know, in those where the community sort of plays a much bigger part, food is part of that as well. You know,
Yeah.
people eat together, they share. It's sharing. It's a
Yeah.
communal thing, but we
Helping
in
each
the West
other.
don't do that. Yeah, we
No.
don't do that.
Well, also I was watching the birds here because you watch the people community, and then I put
Yeah,
some food out for the birds, and what I found absolutely mind blowing is that all these different bird types came down and they all let each other have a little bit.
yeah.
Like nobody hogged it.
How d-
Nobody suddenly went, "This is all mine. You can all go."
yeah,
Uh, so it was all just everyone, and no one over, took. Everyone
yeah.
just had a little bit and flew off. It blew my mind. Thought it
Was
was
it?
absolutely incredible.
There's an interesting thing as well with the like with trees as well. There's sort of the mycelium network, where they sort of share nutrients amongst each other
Yeah,
through their roots. And
yeah,
it's not just sort of limited to that oaks share with oaks and elm share. It's like it doesn't really matter. And I've got into thinking more about how we should be learning from nature, and rather than sort of seeing nature as like a kind of commodity that's there to support humans.
yeah,
We're not that special, and it's more about sort of living with animals, with the ground, with the earth, and with the plants and the trees. uh, and this, I think the other way, the way that we've done it has led as this that's what's led to the problems that we've got now.
definitely, definitely. I was hanging out with some people, I don't know when it was, but they were talking about how because all of them homeschooled their kids,
Mm,
and all their kids became some kind of genius.
really?
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
they were actually saying statistics, and this one kid, I'll never forget, he was only 13, 14, and he developed something to cure blindness. And someone very famous was doing something with him who I've forgotten. But point being, you go to school thinking that's the right way, but actually, you know, all it's doing is blocking our ability to develop our creative side of the brain that
Mm,
we've all got. Everyone has access. I mean, you know this as well, but if they're just constantly, if you go to school and you learn discipline and methods of how to live in a certain society, that's fine. But
mm,
what happens to developing your, creative side, your
yeah,
spiritual side? And if people being homeschooled, not having to deal with all of that, and they're just being encouraged to imagine, imagination is everything. You
mm,
encourage a kid, I mean, they're gonna make miracles happen because they
yeah,
haven't been they haven't been, pushed down by society. You must think like this. That's not peace. Do you know what I mean? They've got
yeah,
the freedom of no baggage to
yeah.
imagine great things.
I think that the word you said there, imagination. I think that's just such a that's a real kind of superpower. That
Yeah,
that we all have. It's not necessarily allowed to be shown. It's almost like, yeah, like you
yeah,
said. It's like you sort of. I think, and I think sort of particularly in the corporate world, and when you think talking about imagination as far as work goes, it's like do this. It's like very much sort of process driven, and things like that.
yeah.
And people are sort of kind of so consumed with that doesn't leave any time for imagination.
No. Although they're
For
having a great time
creativity.
with imagination at the moment and AI. This is probably the
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
beautiful time before the storm, but
yeah.
that, I mean, I'm finding that really fascinating with technology right now. It's at a
Mm,
brink where whatever you can imagine, you can possibly create
you can create.
in a physical kind of
Yeah.
way. But yeah.
When so how did you sort of first get into music, and kind of what sort of kind of music again did you sort of gravitate to? What was it,
Yeah.
because I've always been interested in this, in how I got into the music that I have. It's really weird sort of thinking about it. I'm not sure if I've come up with the answers, but
So when I was a kid in Iran, I used to like this woman called Gugush.
Right.
I really liked her. She was like, I imagined my mum was like her, you know.
Yeah.
Was like, yeah, my mum must have been like Gugush, and so she'd come on TV like doing the whole singing. I'd literally stand next to the telly and perform with her,
Really.
and the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
family would be going, ah.
Oh, brilliant.
So I think I always had that, um, and I always wanted to, whenever there was an opportunity to sing or dance or act when I was younger, I was there. That is what I gravitated to. It's what I
Right.
wanted to do. It was completely against what my father thought I should do. I was supposed to, grow up to be a good, good girl who's a doctor. Do you know what I mean? Which was not me.
Traditional sort of career and
Yeah,
stuff like
so
that. Yeah.
I was forced to do physics, chemistry, biology and stuff, and I was just crap at it.
Mm,
And I failed it all, but I didn't fail art and English and
mm,
math. Um, but yeah, so I've always gravitated to those things, and whatever you're good at is what. Even I remember when I first came into the country, you just reminded me. I went to summer school, and the summer school teacher heard me singing because we were all singing, and she liked my voice. And she said, "You can sing the solos." So I
wow.
sung the solos I sung the verses in Hey Jude.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I've always loved that, but have never wasn't allowed to do it. It was all a bit strange. And then as a teenager, I really found I mean, it's obviously my age, but the in the 80s, I kind of late 80s and that it was, what was it? Tainted Love. I
Mm,
associated with songs that I could relate to with the suffering I was going through at home.
yeah.
Um, and so I liked, Soft Cell and
Mm,
Boy George and the first Hill, obviously that song, This Is Not a Love Song. I had a lot of
yeah.
trouble at home, so I struggled with Tainted Love and all of that. So
Mm,
I loved Pill. I remember loving Pill, really loving Pill. Um, and then I think, obviously wrote songs. I really liked a song that George Michael wrote, and I loved it so much. So, I'm going to copy that. So I just did that for fun as a kid
mm,
without anyone prompting me. I spent a lot of time in rooms on my own, so that probably helped
mm,
in. Um, so yeah, it's just got intermingled with my life really
mm. The
of
80s
being.
was a
Mm.
80s was a it was really sort of fun music, kind of period for music. There was just
Yeah,
such a
Top of the
uh,
Pops, the
yeah.
Thursday. I used to love that, and I think it was Monkey first,
Oh,
and,
yes. Oh my God, it
and
was,
then
wasn't
Top of
it?
the Pops.
Oh God, yeah.
I used to love Monkey.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
that was like so off the wall,
I
wasn't it?
loved it. It was just everything, wasn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, what else? There's quite a lot of things. And then I went through a lot of strange periods. And then I went through a phase where I ended up in a church band with like 7 people.
Hmm.
And I just, trying to write original music. And it was just too much. It was trying to work with 7 different people and instruments. It was such a pain to try and get anyone to agree or anything.
Oh God,
But
right.
by the time I discovered that actually you can sit and, write a track on Cubase and use
Hmm.
different instruments, and you don't need all these people, I was off.
Yeah.
That was just like,
Yeah.
and that started my creative journey. I always fancied myself as a female prodigy,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is probably, that's what happened to me in my um early 20s. So then I was just trying to find my sound within that. Um and that's where I am today, I suppose.
Have you always sort of worked better with you know, either you know, you by yourself or with a smaller group of people rather than a kind of bigger group of people?
So it depends really. I used to love improvise. One thing I used to love, say, yeah, did go for a church phase. So I used to go to church, and we used to, one part, and I used to lead the music as well. And one part of it was they'd all kind of like the musicians would play, and then the people would improvise.
Mm,
And I just loved that,
yeah.
like it's the communal music playing and everyone just randomly singing out whatever they felt was just
Wow.
so incredible. I loved it. So that kind of communal singing, yeah, amazing.
I wish
Um,
I'd had that.
yeah, but some people I've worked with, you have to find, it's like you can't have four arms writing a song because
Mm,
you're going to annoy each other. Some people I've written with, and we don't get anywhere because every time, say, I do a melody or a lyric or whatever, they go, "Oh no, that's not right. No, what that
yeah.
needs to be is," and they're there ticking what you're doing, and you're like, "What the fuck?" Fuck off.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to find people that you bond with, that you click with, to write. Otherwise, don't bother because it can be a really negative experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
that was my main thing. I think when I decided, I knew, I feel like music is my calling.
Mm,
Um, and uh I always, so I knew there was a sound I wanted to make. And then I went out looking for people. I ditched the band because as much as I loved all the individuals, it just didn't, it was just like, it was too much. I wanted to write songs. I couldn't write them fast enough with that lot.
mm,
So then when I knew the sound I wanted to make, obviously with a producer in that kind of way, I literally just, found people that were looking for singers to work with. And I went and wrote loads of songs with lots of people. And that
yeah.
was great, because you get to meet lots of different people and, and
Yeah.
lots of different ways you probably shouldn't do it. So it was like, um, by the
Did you?
time I met Andy, I was in the right place. We met, and w- hi, how you doing? Right, upstairs in the studio, start writing, bang, 30 minutes later, we'd written something
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. And I knew that he was right, for me to write with, because we both had the same DNA almost.
Yeah. It's interesting that, you know, how it almost takes you know, you can either get lucky and meet somebody sort of straight from the off that you just sort of click with, or it just takes time and you have to have the, I don't know, patience to or almost like go through the sort of the pain of people that you know you love, but from that point of view, it just doesn't work. You know,
Mm,
for whatever reason, it makes you realize how complex it is and how complex we are as sort of people for it to really kind of gel. You know, where you can you just do things together and or you can create things that work.
yeah.
It's not straightforward, is it? When you think about it.
No, it takes time, I think, to find who you click with.
Mm,
But I think as I learned, the most important person you got to click with is yourself, because it doesn't
mm,
matter who you work with. You could be working with the greatest person, but if you've got issues with yourself or whatever, it can still go wrong.
mm.
So, yeah,
Was that what you found? You needed to sort of almost like, you know, get comfortable yourself.
I think
That
I
was
think
that was a
that
trigger for it working.
I think for me, because I didn't have the right self-love, I didn't make the right
Mm,
choices, and I've probably, ruined my own opportunities, if you like, because I just got into bad relationships, really.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think when you're young, you're young and naive, and for me, like, I just trusted people that I probably shouldn't have done. And I
Mm,
didn't realize people in music could be so devious and deceptive and,
mm.
you know, lie.
Yeah, and basically lie. Yeah.
So it'd be like, oh no, but you said you do this if I do. So yeah, I think that my walk's been interesting, and what I've stayed true to though is I've met. I mean, as time has gone on, I've seen people even coming along in the punk world, and really like, yes, I'm a professional and I'm going to make it, kind of thing. And I'm looking at them like, you know, uh I find that alien to me, the way they are. Do you know what I mean? Because for
Mm,
me, it's always been about the experience. Um, I love rock and roll,
yeah.
and I love the people that sang songs that saved my life in some really desperate situations.
Yeah.
So for me, I wanted to um, be with them. Do you know what I mean? Or feel them. So uh, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Probably not. Yeah, I was into the sex, drugs, rock and roll, more the drugs than the rock and roll. But
Mm,
do you know what I
mm,
mean? I think the sex probably
yeah.
comes with it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to maybe walk the road of my heroes. I didn't want to be this straight, I don't drink, I don't do anything, and I sing about punk rock and I'm here
Mm,
to go as far as I can. I would just like bollocks to that. I want to
mm,
be with the artists that wrote the songs that saved my life and
mm,
be like them. So, you know,
yeah.
it's an interesting journey, and I've met some lovely people. So,
Yeah.
just by not having the same priorities, I probably could have done with a good manager going, you know what, that's great, but let's do that as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
But almost like what you're saying, that instead of sort of having the, I'm going to be the, what the others were saying, I'm going to be this sort of big success in the world and stuff like that, where you're kind of like sort of following the path of, it's about the, the experience, and the experience of doing it. That's much more kind of liberating and sort of freeing for your mind. It allows you to have that imagination, and to
yeah,
sort of, because you don't have these kind of lofty goals, or any sort of
yeah,
kind of goals, apart from kind of living the experience of it.
yeah. And also, like, part of living the experience, I think you're kind of healing yourself as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Music has always healed me of my head ifs, if you like. And also, one of the album titles for the Jewel was All Aboard the Crazy Train.
Mm,
This because, music attracts people that have problems,
yeah,
so at one point I was surrounded by people that had multiple isms in
yeah,
rock and roll. Do you know what I mean? At the
yeah.
gigs and here and on stage, and that's why it became like, yeah, well, we've all mentally fucked up in a way, and we're drawn to music, making music, being with other people that are healing. We're all soothing a wound somewhere
Mm.
together, all aboard the crazy train.
I
Yeah.
remember asking he's he's a hip hop artist, lives in the States, and sings about very, very kind of like kind of political, social, sort of issues, quite, intense. Um I said to him, how do you, what's your kind of, release from the tension in your music? And he said, This is my release. The
Mm.
music itself is his release." I was sort
Yeah.
of coming at it from the perspective, probably as a, I mean, I've played music, I've played instruments, I've not been in a band, but I'm coming at it from the other side of looking and thinking, wow, that's fucking intense. That must be.
Yeah.
But he's like saying, no, everything that I experience outside of music is the tension and is
Yeah.
the aggravation. The music, I write about difficult subjects, but that is my release.
Yeah, definitely. I think so as well. You write some lyrics, and when you sing them, it is, it's healing you as well.
Mm,
And hopefully healing other people that have been through that.
yeah.
That's the power of music, isn't
That's
it?
the power. That's the power of it. It's like I always say. It's like it's kind of like that's the sort of one constant through your life, isn't it?
Yeah, and I feel as well, you know, I've done a lot of gigs. I've done a lot of DIY gigs from um 2000 to, you know, I think we stopped in 2016, 17. Done a lot
Mm,
of that. Um, but the main thing is to reach someone in their living room.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? When someone's listening to their music, to your songs on their own, and you know, it's giving them pleasure, it's taking away a little bit of lonely or whatever, it's making them happy.
yeah,
You know, before you get like thousands at a concert,
yeah.
get that, you know, and I want, you know, that's what for me going forward. It's been a very rocky road for the Jewel.
Mm,
Um, it's been 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears.
yeah.
Um, but what I find now, because my songwriting partner Andy is extremely ill,
Mm,
and what I realized at the weekend was that, yeah, we fought our way through all of that shit, but we still wrote some epics, and
mm,
most of them got binned or thrown across the room or stamped, whatever. But there is there is a CD or two lying around, quite a lot of that's and that. So I reckon I've probably got 20 years of material that I could release.
that you could release, yeah,
So I'm gonna do that because I wanna, you know, when we were DIY, the music industry was kind of going bust or had gone bust,
yeah,
and they weren't signing new acts. And no one, you know, you'd go to a music conference and be like, oh, like all the music industry all acting like sheep. No one dared take a risk because it could be their job.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, a lot of independent, sure, the 70s and the 80s created loads of independent records, but labels, but as the industry went bust, all those little labels got bought out. And if you didn't get bought out, you got kicked out.
mm,
So now you've just got major labels. You've got, I've noticed in the latest years, you have got more new independent labels
yeah,
coming. And that this is new. Now we're in a new era where you can release music and there is a, you know, the how to step-by-step guide how to do it. It's all
yeah,
laid out for you. All you got to
mm,
do is walk down the yellow brick road. It's all there.
mm,
Whereas I reckon, well, in our time, it wasn't there. It was all just push here, push there,
yeah, that's very true.
and constantly get pushed back. You know, you're pissing someone off, whatever you tried to do. Um, so yeah, so trying to release music was hard. Also,
Mm,
by the time you'd done the album, you you were emotionally exhausted, and then you
yeah,
expected to fucking promote the damn thing. And you got ain't
mm,
got a good word to say about it, let alone listen to it. So,
mm,
you know, that was extremely difficult. Uh,
yeah,
so yeah, have you can't do it all. And with the balance of the universe, yeah, it has to be balance. So I think my balance now is that, well, some of those great songs after a period of healing uh, from the shit,
mm.
um, you know, to honor the good. You know, so it's what we did wasn't completely wasted or
And sort of
self-mutilating.
and then release them when the
Yeah,
time's right for you.
it feels like the time is right. I feel I feel good to help Andy right now. He's kind of he's in his own words, he's a bit of a vegetable in his state of MS. And
Mm,
he's literally got one finger that kind of works that he can push his phone to try and
yeah,
so he's really can't do anything. And I was going the other week, I was going through loads of CDs because there's boxes and boxes of uh Jewel stuff. And I came across this album that I'd completely forgotten about, you know,
yeah,
and a great joy was to be able to just rip the CD, turn it into, you know, an MP3 file, send it to Andy on WhatsApp, and go,
yeah,
"Oh my God, Andy, look what I found!" And he was able to press play and listen, you know, because he
Yeah.
was, you know, an accomplished musician who not able to use his hands anymore. So it was really nice that he could just, you know, at least listen to
That
something.
must that must have been incredibly emotional for you both, you know, to dig that out and to,
Oh,
you know, the memories that must sort of come back
oh yeah.
from that. I bet. I bet that's unreal. Wow.
It was. It was. And there's some actually, you know, some songs you kind of like spit out at the time because you're like so angry.
Yeah.
You don't even notice that it's good. You're just like, fuck off. No, you fuck off. Bye.
Yeah.
You know, and then yeah, listening to you, you're like, oh wow, that's actually really catchy and that's actually quite a good love song.
Well, again, it's an interesting one, isn't it? When you kind of like look at it back, you know, as you've changed over the years, over that sort of
Mm.
period of time, you look back at it now with a almost like with a different set of glasses
Yeah,
on, don't you? You know?
yes, yeah, a different person, definitely.
Mm, wow. And
Don't know.
how was Rebellion?
Rebellion was great as always. It was fabulous to take part.
Yeah.
It's been it's I've enjoyed not taking part, but it's been really hard. You feel like, oh, I want to play as well.
Want to
So
play
we
as well?
played.
Yeah.
There's just two of us. Paul is I was probably it was nice because I love Rebellion and I am so proud of what Rebellion has become.
Mm,
Um, but it was also Paul's kind of last gigs with me as well because he's moving to Germany.
to Germany. Yeah.
He had to
Yeah.
meet to live with his girlfriend. So, you know, it was a bit of like going, oh, thanks, mate, and haven't we had a good time? And he's like, well, I'm not gone, you know, you can call me for this gig and that gig. And so I'm like, right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Paul's been a great friend of the Jewel. We first started working with him in 2003. Always loved his guitars. One thing me and Andy always used to fight about was obviously the production of the songs. Um, and then when we met Paul, I think both Andy and I respected Paul enough to let him edit our songs without
Yeah.
us both getting angry with him. So he did actually help us edit, so because you know probably a bit repetitive or whatever, but he helped craft it in a nicer way, the songs. And so, you know, he holds a special place in the Jules
Mm,
life. So yeah, and Rebellion was great because obviously they had all that trouble,
yeah.
the nonsense that happened around the whole country, but the
Mm,
punk showed that they were beautiful, evolved humans,
beautiful people.
and
Yeah.
the unity there amongst the bands and the people just
Yeah.
stronger.
Yeah.
So that was just
I think
great.
that's
Good to
yeah, I think
see.
that's a sort of lovely story to, you know, in times, you know, when it's just such fucking awful times in lots of ways,
Oh
when you get
yeah.
a you know, that community that you know you've been part of for so long, and the, you know, the whole kind of like ethic and sort of scene has meant so much to you, to see, yeah, in difficult times, that it does what it's supposed to do and it comes
Yeah,
together.
it kind of scratches off a bit of cynicism, doesn't it?
It does,
You feel a
totally.
little bit of ray of hope. You're like, oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's really nice.
There actually is more of us than them.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Despite what the fucking media try to sort of
Yeah,
portray and stuff like
yes.
that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really important message.
So yeah, Rebellion is good. Next up that I'm working on really, I think for me, I want to, we've done an album's worth of music that we're performing live,
Mm,
that I'm going to, you know, start releasing bit by bit. So that's cool. And also release some music with Andy, kind of like let him know that his legacy is not being forgotten and
yeah.
help him feel good
Yeah.
uh, in this part of his life. The other thing we're doing actually is, well, I moved out of London and then I thought, well, I moved out the suburbs of London, shall we say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have moved out of central London, but yeah, moved out the suburbs of London, and then thought, oh well, what am I going to do now? I thought, well, it doesn't matter, I can write a book. I've always been meaning to write a book, and I got
Mm,
my radio video show things that I love to do. I thought that'd be fine. And then as soon as I leave London, I get offered a club night in London. I'm like, sod's law, isn't it? But actually
yeah.
quite a nice way to keep in with my mates. So
Yeah.
we're doing a club night at Ruse Studios,
Mm,
and it's the second Saturday of every month, starting on the 14th of September.
brilliant.
Um, I'm doing that with the Punch Drunk Pirates,
Yeah.
who one of the people in the band actually is part of Ruse, so that's the
Okay.
connection. And they were like, come on, you did a club here, come and do it again, we'll do it together, we'll just have fun. And so yeah, we've created this kind of, because we've got like Pirates Unite, we've always had the Pirates Unite thing as the jewel. We thought we'd
Yeah.
make it, and they're Punch Drunk Pirates, we thought
Pirates.
we'd
Yeah.
make
Okay.
a bit of a theme.
Yeah.
So, and you've always got people that don't want to pay,
Yeah.
don't you know who I think I am, so we kind of thought, okay, we're going to have anyone that wants to come in free has to dress up as a pirate. And if they don't dress up and they still want to come free, then I'm just going to have a bag of stuff that they have to wear.
Did they have to wear? God, that's going to sort the wheat from the chaff, isn't it? That.
Anyway, well, I just want to have a bit of fun. So what's been beautiful is that, okay, we're going to do a club night and we're going to have some fun and we're going to play music. There's a lot of young bands who don't get the opportunity to play live are going to be playing. We're going to ask more to play. Us old farts are going to play the Jewel and the Punch Drunk Pirates.
Brilliant.
And also we got some special guests coming, which, that you thankfully made
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
So don't know if I'm allowed to say anything about that yet. So but they're going to play as well. And Segs is doing something on his own,
Yeah.
just because he's going to be there anyway, so he's just going to do something. He normally DJs at the nights.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's going to be a nice creative environment for our friends and new people to come and just be
Yeah.
creative, have fun. So second Saturday of every month, I'll be in Old Street Ruse Studios with all my lovely London-ish friends.
Friends. That's amazing. Wow.
So
Brilliant.
come along.
Brilliant. I will do for sure. For sure.
Good.
Brilliant, Tara. That's amazing. Thanks so much.
And we've
Honestly,
ended,
it's been inspirational talking to you. Honestly,
really, well, ended
honestly,
the interview at 12:12, so that's
12.
magical.
It's magical timing. Yes.
See what it's like on Mars.
I know. I'm gonna miss Mars. I've been just sort of absorbing all the scenery. It's been
I will
amazing.
be beaming you in. Beaming you in. You'll have your own little quarters in a minute.